everybody, welcome to Fiber Arts Friday, City Edition. I love shooting up in my studio in the country, but I think we need some more Fiber Arts videos, so I'm just going for the city version today. Before we talk anything fiber, my lipstick is Marc Jacobs, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. People always ask me what my lipstick is. So one thing I want to do, because as I've become a better knitter, I find myself wanting to know about patterns I'm working on, and I get frustrated that I can't find enough. And on Ravelry, people make notes about their patterns, but sometimes I feel overwhelmed because there's so many different ones and I maybe don't always understand what they're talking about, or I don't want to read through all of them. So I'm going to start hopefully making videos about patterns I've finished so that when the next person is working on it, they can maybe find the video and it will be helpful. So I want to talk about the Namaste top. I found a picture of this. in the Knit Picks catalog, and I was like, I want to make that. And I'm wearing it right now. You can't really get the full effect, but you can see the top. So I wanted to tell you that I made mine. So what's cool about the Knit Picks website is you can pick the pattern, and then they will have all of the different yarn options that work for that pattern, and you can sort of mix and match and click them in. And then as you're mixing and matching with all the same weight yarns, it will tell you the total price of your project. So let's say you put them all in and go, that's just $55. I don't want to spend $55 on this. Then you can go down to like a lesser quality yarn and do it for a little less money, or you can go up if you want to make it fancier. I ended up with the Gloss Decay. The purplish color is called Fairy Tale. The silver gray is called Robot. And then I don't know where the rest of my yarn is, but it's either Agen. I think it's Agen. There was another one that looked kind of similar to it, but I think this is the one accent sort of turquoise color. It's called Agen, and it's $6.49 a ball. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about my process. So I did the size 34. And I knit a gauge swatch, and I made my gauge. So the gauge swatch is made of this sort of, what did she call this stitch? This is called I think the corrugated ribbing. So you do your swatch in the corrugated ribbing, and I met my gauge, so I just carried on with what was recommended. And I loved doing the provisional cast on. So that's when you make a cast on where both sides of the project stay live, so that you can do this part, you can do all of this, and then you can come back and do this part. So I kept that as is. And one thing I got stuck on, and I will say the person who wrote this pattern, Katy Banks, was extremely helpful and extremely responsive. So whenever I had a question, I actually went straight to her, and I ended up asking her this question over and over again, and I didn't realize I was just making this weird mistake, and neither did she, so I kept bugging her. But I eventually figured it out. So let me just find that part of the pattern, so pause one second. Okay, first I want to talk about the side panels. So the side panels are this really cool detail that I really like, right here. But as you can see, my stripes on the front do not match up with my stripes on the back on this side. I'm not sure if they do as I go. They don't really here either. Now this side, they ended up matching up almost perfectly. See? Did they here? Not quite here. So the process is you pick up all these stitches on the side, like 120 stitches. From here all the way down here is like 120 stitches, for my size at least. Same with this side. So you pick them up, and then after you've picked them all up and worked to the middle, then you join. So this thicker pink is the join, which is really cool. But I wish I had known that I had to have the stripes match up. And the reason they do not match up is because the way that I was picking up 120 stitches didn't match for both sides. So if I had to do it again, I think I would have placed markers at each stripe, or just placed a marker there to remind myself, pay attention here. because, or I would have written the pattern, pick up this many stitches from the bottom to your first stripe, and then for that section of the 3 stripes right here, pick up like, you know, 30, and then another however many. So I wish that I had taken the time to, I didn't even know until I put it on. I didn't even notice. So I wish she had made a note about that. Like, make sure when you're picking up those 120 stitches on each side that the stripes are matching up. I think maybe what I would have done is safety pin the 2 sides together so that, I don't even know, so that as I picked them up, they were like, I was making sure they were even. So that's one thing that I think was disappointing for me. I was like, oh, my stripes don't match. So that's one thing I wish had been in the pattern notes, and maybe something that you can fix when you make the top. But then there was something with the yoke too that I was struggling with, so let me just find that wording and point that out too. Pardon my sirens, this is the City Fiber Arts Friday. So one thing I've learned with knitting is if something seems off, if you're like, that just doesn't make sense, I find I'm probably doing something wrong. So that was the case here. I got to this point in the pattern, which was for the yoke up here, and it was a 4-stitch decrease round. But it says bracket SSK comma, and then it has that star, slip on with yarn and back, knit 1, repeat from star, and then it goes on and on to the last bracket. So I had put that SSK inside the star, and so I kept SSKing, and it kept getting so small and tight. And I was like, why is it so tight? And why, this doesn't look like corrugated ribbing. And I don't remember that from the sample. And I just had all these questions going through my brain. And I kept emailing Katy, and she did think that she had made one mistake at some point and corrected that. It was, I can't even remember now, but it was something about sort of this first setup row on this. It was like the difference between an even and an odd. And I'm like, no, that's not even, nope, that's not what I'm asking here. And so after I had ripped it out 6 times, I think I got to the 6th time, I realized I was doing the SSK like every single one instead of just right here. And if I had taken a second to think about that I'm making this decrease, and so it only, of course, it only happens at the beginning, and then you do the corrugated rib until you get to the second one, that would have just been brilliant. But it was, sometimes the knitting, you're just like, what? And then you have that aha moment where you just read it one more time, and then you realize what your mistake was. So that's all. I really enjoyed this pattern a lot, despite that one catch that I had. I think it's really fun. I love that it has the horizontal stripes. I love the corrugated ribbing. I think it's a great detail, and I like this side open part. And you know, I like chunky. I like big chunky knits, but this was a fine knit for me, and I think it makes it look actually a little bit more store-bought. I mean, I need to block it again. I just did a really fast block on the top because I had this Fiber Arts fashion show I wanted it to walk in. So I haven't done a proper block on this, but I think once I do, I'll have it crunch in a little bit more and fit me better. I also think this is a flattering sweater and will do great in the spring and fall months when I don't have to be like super warm. I just want to like make a style, a fashion statement. So I just wanted to talk about the Namaste top. For any of you who are working on it, I say go for it, and just if you get stuck anywhere, you can just email Katy. She's super nice and accessible and wants you to be successful. So that's it for this Fiber Arts Friday. Namaste top from Knit Picks using their own yarn, the Gloss DK. Happy knitting. Let me know if you work on it, okay? Bye.